Welcome, everybody, to my channel at Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Thank you for joining me today. And we've got this June 2025 astrology, which is I'm going to be talking about on this video, really highlighted all month and, of course, all year by Jupiter going into a new sign of Cancer. And we call that an ingress. And this is going to happen on the 9th of June at 2:02 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And you can see here on the chart other aspects that may be happening too. So Jupiter goes into Cancer at 0 degrees of Cancer. It does conjunct Mercury also in Cancer at 1 degree. And so it really emphasizes the fact that there may be some important information being relayed here about anything to do with Jupiter-like things. Now, the Cancer part of it really emphasizes things like our home, the mother, our family could be very important at this time as well, right? And in fact, this influence lasts for the whole year. But if we take it out to the collective, we're really talking about the homeland. And our homeland, of course, will be different for different people depending where they live. When we look at the first lunation of the month of June, it's going to be on the 11th of June, and it will be a full moon in Sagittarius at 20 degrees Sagittarius, 38 minutes, at 12:42 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Now, the moon in Sagittarius does have a wide trine with Mars, which is at 26 degrees of Leo. And in fact, Mars will stay in Leo or remain in Leo almost halfway through the month of June, really giving and emitting things like courage, the ability to take this stand on something, the ability to get in front of people and talk about things, talk about actions that need to be taken here, right? Now, if we look at Sagittarius and we say, well, what areas does that cover? It covers a number of areas. Widely speaking, the Sagittarius full moon refers to foreign people, foreign things. It can refer to the law, right, and the laws of the land. It can refer to things like travel, maybe a big spotlight put on all these things as well. This can be universities as well, higher education. So those types of things could be coming into view here with the full moon. It's like that full moon is putting a big spotlight on these things, right? Now, the ruler of Sagittarius, of course, is Jupiter. I've just spoken about Jupiter. So I would say there's a connection probably also with Jupiter now moving into that sign of Cancer on the 9th of June with this full moon, even though it's in a different sign, because it's ruled by Jupiter. That is an important point when Jupiter comes into that new sign of Cancer. And of course, as I mentioned, that whole effect is going to be lasting for about a year. Jupiter is approximately a 12-year cycle, so you could go back. In particular, now I'm talking about that 9th of June when Jupiter does go into Cancer. What was happening 12 years ago? What was illuminated at this time? What were you growing at this time? What were you recognizing with regards to your place in this world and the things around you, right? Did you have lucky benefits come in at that time? A lucky advisor, a lucky teacher? Now, we are going to have Mercury is going to be at 4 degrees of Cancer. And so it's interesting that following this full moon, we're going to have a new moon. And that new moon is going to be at 4 degrees of Cancer. So there's a tie-in here with this full moon in Sagittarius because of that Mercury being at 4 degrees of Cancer, highlighting, almost like giving us a heads up, maybe even a foreshadowing of what's going to be happening at that new moon at that same degree that Mercury is at, 4 degrees of Cancer. So I would say pay attention to what's happening in your homeland. Pay attention to what's happening in your family, in particular with your mother, because those as an individual, as well as a collective level, could all be playing out for the whole month of June 2025. Now, the other thing that we're going to have is that Mars, which is at 26 degrees of Leo, will be squaring Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus. At the same time, though, that Mars is going to be trining Chiron. And so this is a combination of effects with Mars. Certainly the square part of it is butting heads, no question of it. This is going to be, generally speaking, I think there may be more protests. Now, Leo likes to put things on the stage so everybody can see it. So this is going to be seen by everybody. This is going to be probably a worldwide view of things like protests, that type of thing, of discontent. One of the sort of little messages I put on my videos this month is the beginning of the summer of discontent. And I think that this is going to be reflected at this full moon with this Mars squaring Uranus. But the Mars trining Chiron could bring in some healing energy here, right? Now remember, Mars will still be in Leo, trining that Chiron where we're wounded, but it can also refer to health. So there may be some real forward movement with regards to some health matters at this point in time. We're still going back here to this full moon, of course, in Sagittarius. Now, the other thing, so we look at a flip side of Sagittarius, we like to think that it's going to bring in positive energy, optimism, that type of thing, positive thinking. But there's also this possibility of exaggeration, boastfulness, that type of thing. And certainly with the Mars influencing this full moon in Sagittarius, especially with that square to Uranus, this can bring in impatience, revolution, also decisiveness, right? Mars is going forward, squaring that Uranus, but that Mars is in Leo, and it likes to take action of what it wants to do. Now, on a sort of personal level, this can bring in a day at this full moon of being accident prone, right? And certainly Mars squaring Uranus emphasizes fires and things like that. So we may have some kind of fire season start at this time too. Now, that Mercury can also bring in more communications and informations, right? And because this is a full moon in Sagittarius, this can have a lot to do with foreign things. So this brings in that whole idea of diplomacy as well, maybe highlighted at this full moon. So it's a big full moon in Sagittarius. Certainly, if you are a Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising and you have something around this 20-degree mark of Sagittarius, this may mark for you individually a culmination of some sort or an ending. When we move on to the 18th and 19th of June, we have now Mercury moving to about 17, 18 degrees of Cancer. And if you recall back on astrology back in February, you'll remember that the degree point that Mars that was retrograde for a few months went direct at 17 degrees of Cancer. And that was on the 24th of Feb. So you could recall back what was happening at that time. Did something move forward? Was there some indication that you could get on with something? I would say that this Mercury hitting that point now could bring in things for some folks, maybe signing contracts. Maybe you finally get that message or information. Maybe it's a letter. Maybe it's an email. It could be something like even a communication from the family. Because remember, we're talking about Mercury being in Cancer here. Maybe even just improved communications with family at this time. But certainly it is connected back with that 24th of February, which marked the end of Mars going retrograde as it went direct at this point. So if you're looking at signing contracts, getting communications out, receiving communications that have been held back, this is probably going to be, these couple days, the 18th and 9th of June, very positive to say, okay, green light time. So when we get to the 20th of Jan 2025, we have our summer solstice. And that is when the sun gets to 0 degrees of Cancer. Now, I've got the chart here in front of me, and you can see it up here on the screen. But what's interesting at this particular summer solstice is that we're going to have Jupiter, newly minted in Cancer, conjuncting that sun fairly closely. It's at 2 degrees, and then the sun's going to be at 0 degrees. So this really emphasizes or puts a big emphasis on this summer solstice and in many ways extends the effect of it. And so I would say that things that are Jupiter-like are going to be very much influencing this summer solstice. So what are those things? When we look at Jupiter, just on its own as a planet, we talk about foreign people, foreign things. We talk about legal things. We talk about universities, publishing, travel, generally speaking. And so my feeling is that there's going to be a big, gigantic spotlight, that's going to be Jupiter, on travel. And in particular, it's going to be in travel in our homeland. And of course, for the USA, that is the United States of America. But we could also have the legal profession stepping in here too for some reason. And we could be dealing with foreign countries. We're already dealing with foreign countries on an ongoing basis, it seems. But this puts a greater emphasis on it. And with the sun, when we look at the sun in sort of a transit chart like this, we say that this could represent a male. So this can go a couple ways too. It could bring a male that can lead us into our future. That's the Jupiter part. But it can also have a male expanding itself, exaggerating. Jupiter can also be exaggerating. It can be being boastful, that sort of thing. Now, we could have all these things that I've just mentioned happen as well. The other thing is that we do have Mercury also in Cancer, but it is conjunct at culmination anyway, the star Castor. And you know, you've heard of Castor and Pollux, they're kind of the twins, right? So this Mercury will be conjunct Castor in the constellation of Gemini, even though it is in Cancer for our purposes. And what it really discusses here is that it's the drive to seek more information. Well, Mercury is all about information anyway, but then this star Castor on top of it emphasizes that even more. So I suspect around the summer solstice period that we're going to have a lot of important information where people are going to be seeking out the information and not taking no for an answer. And perhaps that's going to come through this male that may be highlighted here, this male conjunct Jupiter. Now we have the moon, so we're going to look at the moon as well. The moon is in an interesting position. It is just barely in Taurus, so it's 0 degrees, like 30 minutes of Taurus. And so this also, the moon, this is a good place for the moon in terms of the sign Taurus. And I would say that this emphasizes things like, I'm thinking more our food production type things, you know, what we grow on the land, that sort of thing. And land in particular as well may come into the focus here. And at 0 degrees, that's a critical degree. So this speaks to a new beginning of some sort with regards to Taurus-like things. Now, Venus rules Taurus, where the moon is. And Venus is also in Taurus too, working nicely with it. It doesn't conjunct the moon. And then we have Uranus at the also culminating degree, anorectic degree of 29 degrees, bringing all those efforts and energies of Uranus and Taurus to a pulsating head here, which can spell out something that is released at this time as well. Some kind of release. This could represent things like rebellion, that type of thing. And then, of course, we have Saturn as well as Neptune are now in Aries. Now, they're not conjunct exactly, but they're real close together. The other thing that's happening here is that Mercury that I just spoke about at 21 degrees of Cancer will very nicely be trining our destiny north nodes in Pisces. But at the same time, it's going to be sextiling the south nodes in Virgo. This says to me, we're going to be letting something go as we move forward towards our destiny path here. And that destiny path of the north nodes, even though it's wide, is supported by Saturn and Neptune close by, even though they are in Aries. And Pluto at 3 degrees, even though it's retrograde, 3 degrees of Aquarius, will be sextiling both Saturn and Neptune here. And so this is positive opportunities to transform what? Transform our structures that need to dissolve. So this could be a very positive summer solstice time period. And I'm getting the feeling of new initiatives here with regards to the structures in our lives that need to change and need to dissolve. There's going to be support there from that Pluto. The moon, which we mentioned is at 0 degrees and some minutes of Taurus, will nicely sextile both the Sun in Cancer and Jupiter in Cancer too. So here it is, opportunities. Now, in this case, I would say the moon can represent the people. The people are given opportunities to perhaps express themselves in their homeland, to express themselves on an individual level through their family. So it's all about Cancer when we're talking about the Sun and Jupiter. All right, that's my take on the summer solstice. On the 24th of June, we have the Sun now exactly conjunct Jupiter. Well, this is just a fortunate, fortuitous, positive day. Great optimism for sure. A time when some people may take some risks. I always say make sure you look at both sides of the equation before you go ahead. But man, there's going to be a lot of optimism at this time, and hopefully collectively we'll receive some good news of some sort. And the good news could be tied in with Jupiter-related things. The legal profession, laws, universities, foreign people, foreign things, travel. Now we get to the last lunation of the month on the 25th of June, and that's going to be that new moon in Cancer at 4 degrees of Cancer, 7 minutes. It will be conjunct Jupiter, newly minted in Cancer, and it'll be at 3 degrees. Well, just that transit alone, to have the moon, the Sun, and Jupiter all together on the 25th of June to emphasize the new moon is just off the charts awesome. This is a positive day. I mean, in addition to the 24th of June that I mentioned, this marks a whole new start for you. And maybe this will mark a whole new start with regards to, on an individual level, better family relations, especially, say, with your mother. There could be some highlight with regards to the homeland, the home that you're living in. Hey, this would be a great time to buy a home for sure, right? Because Cancer does rule the 4th house of home. It's just an awesome new moon from that standpoint alone. We do have other aspects at this time, and I spoke about Mars with the first lunation of the month, but Mars now for the second half of June will be in Virgo. And it will also be in Virgo, it'll stay in Virgo for most of July as well. And so really now we're referring to digging up the facts, but digging up the relevant facts. So you can expect also at this new moon that new information is going to be dug up by that Mars in Virgo. But it'll continue to dig up through July as well. Now, at this new moon in Cancer, we have this lovely setup of, we have Saturn and Neptune both in Aries. They're only going to really dip into the sign in 2025, and more importantly, it'll be the next year and the following years. We'll see more action happening, but it is a beautiful sextile with Pluto. Now, Pluto is retrograde at this time, but this is a beautiful setup of we can transform these new structures that have to be dissolved, that are disappearing in front of our eyes. We see this opportunity to bring in transformation here in a very positive way. It's like building new structures. And with Pluto being retrograde it may just be part of the planning stage of that. Mercury at this time will be at 28 degrees of Cancer, and it will square Chiron, but it's going to be sextiling Uranus. So this, again, kind of brings back this whole thing of opportunities to really have some changes happening with regards to this Cancer sort of influence of all this month, right? For various reasons. Cancer has highlighted the energies of Cancer. And so I think this could go back to, when that square happens with Chiron, it means there's some challenges here. And the challenges are to do with communications with regards to the homeland, the family, mother type things. But with the sextile of Uranus, it says somebody may be coming in with some new ideas with regards to our health. And I'm taking this as a generic type thing where it's the collective involved here. Someone starts talking, maybe even a woman, because Cancer can represent women, talking about new ways, new unique ways of dealing with our health. Now, these may be met with some challenges. Now, Uranus is going to be at 29 degrees of Taurus, also through the first week of July. And so this is a critical degree or an anorectic degree. It's kind of a culminating energy type of degree. And the thing that this does with one of our leaders in the world, and that would be Donald Trump, that Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus squares his ascendants exactly. And it also continues through all of November and most of April 2026. So I would say he's going to have some pretty challenging times that he's going to have to deal with. But this is also occurring for the first time at this new moon in Cancer. Cancer can refer to the homeland. So the homeland, in his case, would be the USA. So let's take a peek at July. We have a full moon in Capricorn, a new moon in Leo, and Uranus will be going into or ingressing into Gemini on the 7th of July. We're also going to have a Mercury retrograde in Leo. And all month, we're going to have Mars in Virgo, as I mentioned earlier, digging up those facts. I want to mention here, too, that I'm putting links below to various videos. I will be doing a video, a short video after this one of Uranus going into Gemini. And when that's published, I will put the link on here, too. All right. Let's move on now to doing both the ascendants and or the sun signs. I suggest that you look, first of all, or listen to or watch your ascendant, followed by your sun sign. Both of these things are important. If you look at the ascendant or watch for the ascendant, this gives you the areas of life for the transits that I've just spoken about that are personal to you. For this particular type of thing, I use whole house type configuration of the chart. When I do my readings, I actually do Placidus, but you can't use Placidus in a generalized setting because each of them would be different. The charts would be different for each individual person. And that's why many other astrologers also use the whole house system. So Aries, that full moon in Sagittarius, is a fellow fire sign, so we know it trines you, and that's a positive energy coming, beaming your way. But it involves your ninth house. Ninth house, I think, is a great house. There's going to be some Aries that are wrapping up a few things. Some wrapping up favorably a legal matter. For others, maybe wrapping up finally getting something published. For others, either wrapping up a probably overseas journey of some sort, or wrapping up the planning, the future planning of a overseas travel, maybe a fabulous holiday that you're going to be going on. It's wrapping that stuff up at this point. For others, if you've been doing an advanced degree, you see the end of it here, especially with Sagittarius. Sagittarius does rule the ninth house. So this is a double positive effect for you, Aries. And in fact, if you are wrapping up, say, something with regards to foreign people, foreign things, foreign lands, this is super positive for you. Maybe you've signed off on the contracts. Maybe you've decided, what's important for both of you, and you're able to move forward with things, even though it's a full moon. You're wrapping up important things regarding maybe legal matters or how you're going to conduct maybe the business with foreign people, foreign things at this time. A big emphasis of some sort put on those things, either one of them or perhaps all of them. There may be some Aries that are ending working maybe in a foreign land. That's very ninth house. And you're saying, okay, I'm going back home. And that back home happens at the new moon in Cancer. Because that new moon in Cancer is in your fourth house. Not only is that new moon in Cancer in your fourth house of home, but Jupiter going into Cancer is also involving your fourth house. Now, the thing is, you've got this square aspect happening. And squares basically say you've got to think outside the box. You've got some challenges here. It's not that new start that you want to make. May not be all straightforward for you. Ninth house is also visas, passports, green cards, and all that too. Again, going back to the full moon in your ninth house. So I think for Aries, this big emphasis on leaving foreign things and going home is a big emphasis here at this whole month of June for you that carries out for a whole year. Maybe there are some Aries that do want to end living in a foreign land and they're looking to go back home, but they've got to sort out a lot of details to do that. Details that I've just mentioned above here. For still others with that new moon in Cancer squaring your fourth house, it could be that there's some issues going on with your family, maybe issues even with your mother, that you've got to sort out, that you've got to be compassionate, right? That's very Cancer. Very compassionate and very nurturing at this time. So you're going to have to be putting those energies out, and maybe you don't want to be putting those energies out right now. I would say that if that type of thing is setting up for you or you see it potentially coming, what I would suggest is that you look outside the family to see, is there some service, is there some person or advisor that could act as sort of a third party that could come in and help negotiate something. Now, the fourth house can also literally mean your home. So there may be some Aries that want to buy a new home, right? That's that new start at the new moon in Cancer. And there's some issues around it. Just bring in an advisor that can help you, that is an expert in that area. Because pulsating at this time, you still have Jupiter in Cancer, even though it's square. Jupiter can still bring in lots of benefits your way, even at a square, right? So remember that as you're running into challenges with either buying a home, more likely buying a home than selling, or both. Bringing in an expert, that's the Jupiter part. Jupiter in Cancer is going to be really important for you and could change things around. They can change that square into a trine where you have positive energy beaming into that sale that you want to make, or the purchase that you want to make regarding that home. Yeah, that Jupiter in Cancer is going to be important for you. Don't do it all alone, Aries. If any of these scenarios are coming up for you, doing it alone, which is going to be the main thing you're going to want to do. I can do this. I can handle this. Of course I can. I know how to do this. It's a good attitude to have when you're trying to make things happen. But the emphasis here is on somebody else can help you that is a teacher, an expert of some sort, an advisor of some sort that could just take a lot of those sharp edges off whatever you're dealing with. So spend some time thinking about that, right? Certainly with Jupiter in Cancer, it doesn't matter that it's squaring your fourth house. This could be a positive time of a few things. A positive time when you decide you do want to either live overseas, right? And you get positive influences from Cancer to help you do that. Or conversely, you want to move back to your homeland, whatever homeland it is, and Jupiter helps you out. It brings in what? positive benefits your way. It brings in positive, helpful people your way. It can bring in positive, hopeful situations regarding a home, regarding your family, regarding your mother. Now, Aries, you are, for the first time in your lifetime with both of these together, the Saturn and Neptune together, will be at 1-2 degrees of your sign, Aries. And so this is a whole new energy coming in for you too. Now, it's both these planets are going to go retrograde in 2025 and then go direct. But an important time period for Aries is going to be in February 2026, when both these planets, both Saturn and Neptune, conjunct exactly. Now, the whole thing is this whole Saturn-Neptune conjunction really happens within a degree or sometimes minutes from now onwards. And then they go retrograde and all that sort of stuff. So they're going to kind of be dancing together, but then really coming together in February. So this influence really is saying, we're going to dissolve some structures here for you that maybe you've been relying on that really either you don't want in your life anymore, and maybe this structure is a home. Maybe that whole thing about, we're talking about, your fourth house, is you taking the time to dissolve a home situation. And that home situation is the Saturn structure. And you just take this time, you start now saying, well, how can I move on with this and let this home go and get another home? And it culminates in February of you getting that new home. It's also an inspiration with Neptune. Neptune can be very inspirational. And Saturn can put form around it. So certainly if that's something that you've been lacking, and maybe it's as deep as a real spiritual level that you're developing, right? Saturn can help you develop spiritual side of life. And maybe that's something where you take time out for yourself and start doing some meditating. And that meditating could just mean that you start nurturing yourself, right? And the nurturing yourself is that Jupiter in Cancer, where you start going maybe for walks in nature, or maybe some serious, that's Saturn, meditation of some sort, where you take up some serious spiritual practices at this time. And those practices could happen or start to happen in June. And that may also be reflected in the new moon in Cancer as it involves your fourth house. You bring in this spiritual practice into your fourth house. Yeah. Don't forget with the challenges, it doesn't matter with the squares because you've got Jupiter there. Jupiter is always going to be emanating the positive side of whatever's happening. But that Saturn and Neptune together for you is going to be absolutely awesome for you to develop your spiritual life, Aries. So you might want to think about that during June, bringing that element in. And I mean, this can also be reflected in things like, say, feng shui and your fourth house being involved here, Aries, where you decide to feng shui your home, that you put spiritual elements that activate areas of your life through your home that give you positive nurturing and compassionate energy. That goes back to the Jupiter in Cancer. Take care, Aries. All right, folks, that's my take on June 2025. I want everybody to take care of themselves. This is a very Cancer-influenced month, so make sure that you nurture you and make sure you have compassion for yourself as well as others. It seems to be a little lacking in some areas. All right, everybody, sending lots of love. Please take care. If you do want your chart done, I would love to do it. Certainly, we can look at that whole Jupiter going into Cancer, and then, of course, next month with Uranus going into Gemini, might be a good time to get both of these planets established in your chart and understand what they mean. All my contact info is below and all my services. I've got my links to everything. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.